Good morning, and thank you for being here today. You are now part of the keynote session, which is called Retool, Reinvent, and Renew, and what you can do now and in the future. I have had the privilege of knowing our keynote speaker personally for a few years now. Cynthia Hutchinson is Automation Alley's Vice President. She is responsible for managing the nonprofit association's membership portfolio of 1,000+ technology and manufacturing businesses across Michigan, enhancing the overall member experience and helping members succeed during the digital transformation known as Industry 4.0. Hutchison has helped lead opportunities to maximize Automation Alley's reach nationally and globally, including the development of programs related to the organization's Industry 4.0 initiatives, the promotion of the organization as Michigan's Industry 4.0 Knowledge Center, and the organization's distinction as the World Economic Forum Advanced Manufacturing Hub for North America. With that, I ask that you give Cynthia your full attention, and please help me in welcoming her to the webcasting platform.
Thank you. Thank you, Janice. What a lovely introduction. It's nice to be here. Good morning, everybody. I am Cynthia. I am really honored to be a part of this. I greatly appreciate Janice and Michelle trusting me with a component of this really important meeting, because this webinar about how we can move forward and the changes that we're going to see and how we can make them positive for us is a critical component of the future of the state of Michigan and all of you, and certainly for us at Automation Alley. I think Janice gave you a pretty good wrap up of who we are. Automation Alley has become the Industry 4.0 Knowledge Center for the state of Michigan. We partner with organizations like yours. We partner with MMTC, you'll be hearing from later. We really need all of the energy it takes to make our state great and to really assist with manufacturing growth and development. One of the things that we're doing at Automation Alley is helping transform small to mid-sized companies and making sure that they understand and are able to capitalize on how technology will transform them, moving them into the next phase of their growth. You know, the old adage, a business is either growing or stagnant or closing, and we want all these businesses to thrive. So today's conference, with the topic of Retool, Reinvent, and Renew, this is more than ever a call to action for the minority business community. I think COVID has laid bare the vulnerabilities of the manufacturing sector. It's laid bare the vulnerabilities of Michigan and of the United States, and where we didn't have product and supply that we needed them. So this pandemic may have had a disproportionate impact on minority suppliers depending on their financial position prior to the lockdowns. I think it's important to look at where our supply chain is strong and where it's weak, because the proverbial "you're only as strong as your weakest link" is something we need to pay attention to. A weak link in our supply chain is very, very damaging, and it provides opportunity for others to get in. In terms of how different industries are participating right now and the changes they're seeing through COVID, there is some good news. A recent poll by McKinsey indicated that of 1,000 small businesses nationwide, more than 40% of minority-owned small businesses added new services to support their employees and their communities, compared to 27% of all respondents. So I want to thank those of you in the minority supplier business, because that's really exciting. There seems to be a heightened sense of community and a heightened sense of need to move forward and continue to grow. Ensuring that your businesses thrive in the future economy requires seismic shifts in the efficacy of public and private sector partnerships. Organizations like Automation Alley, we are a public and private sector partnership. We want to work with big public companies and small public companies and private companies and opportunities that bring the government, the education together, because it's all of us together that can do more than any one of us separate. The role of technology in a recovery is significant. And when we look at how we're going to recover post-COVID, post all of the things we've all been through the last 90 days, we really need to look at how technology can make that viable for us. The least of which is this very moment, sitting here and being able to talk to all of you through a screen. It wasn't how we did it before, and it's still not our preferred method of doing business, but it's the one we've got. So we need to learn to capitalize on these moments. It's vital that technology investments move from being a luxury. We often see those as a luxury of very successful companies, that they can buy technology. Right now, it's not a luxury. It's a necessity for every company, including yours. Regardless of the size, you have to use technology to move forward. And nowhere was that more apparent than in the reopening. Companies that were hesitant to invest in technology, seeing it as a luxury or an add-on, were not able to open their doors unless they did some technological changes to facilitate being safe for your employees, safe for your customers, and making the product in a new and different way. This is a different time for all of us, but it's an exciting time because the very things that have been laid bare are opportunities for us. In a post-COVID world, technology will be the defining factor between companies that thrive, those that survive, and those that get left behind. I want everybody here to be the companies that thrive. I think that we've got it. We got a lot of moxie in Michigan. I like our state. As our Industry 4.0 Knowledge Center and the World Economic Forum AmHub, we're the advanced manufacturing hub for the World Economic Forum. What that means to all of you is we have access to the World Economic Forum, to their policies, to their roundtables, to their decision-making, to their reach. And if you funnel your needs through us, we can help get that messaging. It's very difficult for a small to mid-sized business to get a seat at the table at the World Economic Forum. It's expensive. It's very, very small group of people that get invited into that. So when we have an opportunity to share your message and funnel it in, it gives us a chance to not only enhance you and Automation Alley, that's actually the least of our, we're simply a conduit to enhance the opportunities for the state of Michigan. I look at the state of Michigan and our strengths, and I want to make sure that I do everything I can to communicate to people all the time that we are really good at what we do and we have ideas for them. We work hard at Automation Alley to provide critical support for your companies, for you and your companies, your suppliers, your vendors. We want you to prepare for Industry 4.0 and the smart manufacturing revolution that will enable you to take this last 90 days and turn it into a stronger future with new ideas, new ways to look at things. We know that at Michigan, we make things and we are very, very good at it. We are makers. We've been makers for a long time. But now with technology, it demands that we collaborate and we iterate and we try again. And we're not used to that. In Michigan, we make things and we make them right, and we tend to lock down an idea, make it, lock it down, and do it the same way over and over and over again. Silicon Valley, we're often compared to, and we hear, you know, I often hear about how Silicon Valley moves faster, they're more creative, they're more innovative. I don't think they're more creative. I don't think they're more innovative. They do move faster. And we probably need to move a little faster, but I will tell you this. Every time I go to the Apple store to have an issue with my phone, they almost always just give me another one and say, oh, that was a glitch. We found that glitch, no problem. We'll give you a new phone. That's because they make iPhones. We make the thing that you take your baby home from the hospital in. We do not take that responsibility lightly, and I would never apologize for it. I would never apologize for moving a little slowly and being quite cautious. After your baby's older, we continue to make things here. We make things that your 18-year-old who enlists in the military has to be kept safe in. We take these things seriously. We don't make things here that can just not work. Everything we have done for 100 years in Michigan has been things that have to work and have to provide safety. And safety is a huge issue. If the things that we make don't work, lives are at risk. Let's face it, the stakes are much higher here. And we know that. So again, I will never apologize for being safety conscious. That's the culture we live in. But I will prod everybody to go a little faster and try some side bets. We often talk about it here as option-like bets. People in the VC community make option-like bets all the time. I want to say I think 9 out of 10 startups won't make it. VCs bank on all 10 of those and give it a whirl. They take their chances. Within your company, you have opportunities to try a couple small option-like bets, whether it's getting a little 3D printer to see if you can learn how to make things, whether it's trying to run something through AI. We just tried an AI meeting scheduler. And the first couple months it worked, and then it didn't work so well. So we're trying another AI meeting scheduler. So we're trying to do these little option-like bets that cost a few $100s, not tens of thousands, certainly not $500,000. You don't need to do something big to try to innovate, but you can start to innovate your business in really safe ways. There are important questions raised at the crossroads of innovation and safety. How do you increase efficiencies while raising the bar on employee safety? How do you engage with other suppliers if there's discrepancies in your digital process? One of my concerns about supply chain and the strength and the fact that I want to keep Michigan in the front of that as one of the strongest suppliers in the world, I think about blockchain and I compare it to my banking. Right now, I bank at one of those big banks that I don't particularly love, but I have so many pieces of my life tied into that bank. So much of the process of my daily living is looped into that I can't change banks without it being a really big decision. With the closer we get, the more people that get moved into blockchain, that's going to happen to our entire supply chain. So no matter how much somebody wants to do business with Janice Thomas and her ABC company, they like her, they trust her, they think it's a great product, they start to look down at the complications of blockchain and how they would have to take a vendor out and put her in, and she would need to be in compliance and have all kinds of communication overlaps with other companies. It becomes more difficult. So we need to move quickly. So we are the companies, the Michigan companies, the minority businesses need to be leading that supply chain. We need to stuff the supply chain today. We need to get in there quickly before things reset. The push to be better, to be safer, and more efficient at the same time, it comes from you. It comes from suppliers with diverse backgrounds committed to bold and profitable future with a focus on the human element. We can never let go of that human element. There have been two glaring challenges that we cannot overcome without engaging the entire community regarding the digitization of manufacturing, the Industry 4.0 piece. Awareness and inertia. Awareness that Industry 4.0 technologies like IoT, big data, the cloud, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, and others are impacting our factory floors. They're no longer the next big thing. They are now a necessity to remain competitive. And inertia, let's face it, it's one of our greatest challenges. It's no longer an option. Just not having the energy or the willingness to try it now is not an option, because now is here. There is no future now. Now is this moment. And I think one of the things we've all learned from COVID is the companies who were most tech savvy were able to move. The very platform we're on, Zoom, was a small platform until this all happened and we all, buried Zoom with money. But Zoom has been one of those companies that grew through this, but you don't need to be a tech company. Manufacturing companies utilizing technology have the exact same opportunity, the advantage to grow rapidly and to leapfrog your competitors. I think we have the innovation in this room, the creativity to do that. Physics taught us that an object at rest stays at rest, and that rule now applies to businesses more than ever. So remember, the future is here. It's not tomorrow, it's now. But tomorrow will be even more technology laden now that the groundwork is laid. For those of us in manufacturing with a manufacturing background, technology was almost an add-on and a nice to have, and it almost devalues what manufacturing really is, but it doesn't. It is now we're so intertwined, we cannot ever let go of it. When you look at your factory floor, you're using technology to support your manufacturing every day. And it's not your computer, it's your machines talking to each other, it's the sensors, it's the traceability, it's the fact that if only 5,000 airbags are bad and nobody knows which ones they were, what day they were made, which cars they ended up in, every airbag has to be recalled from a manufacturer. Those kinds of things are exceedingly damaging, and they're an opportunity for tremendous improvement in efficiencies, in cost, and how we do business that help you grow. Everything that we do is to help you grow. And these organizations that I'm talking with today are a strong part of our supply chain, and we want to keep them strong and make them stronger. So 3D printing helps with that. Virtual reality helps with that. We look at some of the training modules that I've seen that are VR, and they're really dynamic and they're exciting. And they take one of the things, one company I particularly like has a technology that enables somebody who honestly, if necessary, doesn't even have to read to manufacture complex parts, because they guide them through every step of the way with pictorial support. We may think that's silly, but there are people in the workforce who want to be in the workforce who aren't good readers, who are English second language. You know, we can't rely on everybody to do things the way we've done it. We need to be open to new ways of doing things. One of the other programs that I think impacts all of us is cybersecurity. That level of technology is coming into our factories, and we're letting people in, again, now more than ever, because we can't lock it down physically. We're not even at our physical locations, most of us. So we're using technology, and to make it successful, to make it work, to make a Zoom call work, we have to invite people in. So all of a sudden, we're sharing access to our buildings and our facilities at a rate that's totally unprecedented. Ironically, just within the last 3 weeks, Automation Alley has confirmed that we are a partner with the Texas A&M-based Secure America. Secure America is a cybersecurity center. It will be based in Texas, but the automotive section of it will be coming right here out of Automation Alley. And we are partnering with Oakland University. They'll be coordinating all those research project calls. So when you have a research need and you're looking for an academic support that's high level and can dig in and give you all the research you need to make a good decision, that's going to come out of there. At the same time, so much of what we're doing, even as energy, things like trying to make a building more energy efficient. The things we're doing for efficiency almost always offset with a cybersecurity risk. A simple example is skylight. No, not skylight. I'm looking out the window at skylight right now. A very typical example would be solar energy. When we use solar energy, we're exposing our building. So we're getting a reduction in cost for energy. We're making a smaller global footprint, or a smaller carbon footprint, but at the same time, we are exposing our technology and everything that's in our building to an energy company and anybody else who might want to, you know, cross paths with it. So the cybersecurity initiative is a big one. And I think that that's something we need to be tuned into as suppliers. A supplier will not stay in a supply chain if they violate somebody else's protocols for cybersecurity. It's too high risk. And I think we've seen again that through COVID and the fact that we've been waiting on other countries. We need to bring a lot of that back home. Recent world events beyond COVID, all of the other world events have caused massive disruptions across society and industries. And it has forced us to change the way we do everyday life, as well as our business. But we really cannot diminish the human and economic toll these crises have taken. But in order to move forward, we have to look at the silver linings of things like COVID, of things like Black Lives Matter. As horrific as these things have been, we have got to come away from this with a solid takeaway. We have to use new technologies. We have to use new human interactions that are respectful of one another. We have to really push to expand ourselves and make this a turning point in time that we can look back at with pride. I don't want to lose this crisis. We've all survived it this far. I want to keep going, but I want to make this the crisis that's a pivot point where we can look back and say, Michigan got it. Michigan took the lead. This recent push for social reform has led to renewed focus on diversity. All of you are probably hearing from more people than you ever have. But the real and tangible benefits of diversity to the employer are not always talked about. There's a tangible benefit to the employer, to the workforce, to the product development when you have diverse people in a workforce, to the customer, and sometimes to the shareholders. Diversity creates opportunities. Opportunities create success. When I talk about diversity, we all have our own frame of reference. I have a son with Down syndrome, and I have gotten very involved over the years in helping people with disabilities find work. One of the things I did, and I'll make this quick, a gentleman who was an electrical engineer who was blind, had been 6 years out of college and not yet found a job as an electrical engineer. I finally realized that's because every EE who interviewed him uses his or her vision as a critical part of becoming an electrical engineer. So it's unfathomable for them that he could be an EE without sight. So I told him, legally, nobody can ask you questions about your disability unless you open that door. Please open the door. And at his very next interview, and it happened with one of the big three, he said, you must wonder how I could become an electrical engineer while being blind. Can I explain that to you? And as he explained it, he opened the door for somebody to understand his very unique circumstance that wasn't theirs. So he not only got the job, but he ended up designing dashboards. And if you think about it, if we want to stereotype, having somebody who's blind design a dashboard is kind of brilliant, because it was very very easily reached, very logical. It's a very intuitive dashboard. And I'm really proud of that, because I think those are the kinds of things we need to do. And as we look at diversity now, we need to look at diversity across all the spectrum, and how do we take the different experience somebody had, because they're a racial minority, they're a gender minority, they're returning veteran, they're disabled. Those experiences create different thinkers. And people who have had to think differently from the majority of people are often the most innovative, because they've spent their whole lives thinking differently and seeing things differently, and they share a different perspective that can help us grow. Technology is quickly becoming the great equalizer. And I tell you, it's quickly becoming the great equalizer, and I'll tell you it's not super quick, because again, in 1991, I started an employment agency exclusively for people with disabilities. And I went around the country speaking to corporate executives, and my title was Technology, the Great Equalizer. So it's been a while. So we're not quite there yet, but it continues to be the great equalizer. Technology enabled people who are blind to go to work. It enables people with disabilities to move about freely. It enables people to work from home. There are a variety of things it does, but right now, today, this digital transformation we are going through has created more and more opportunities for technology training and adoption to all employees. We can access a different pool of applicants than we've ever been able to, and we can do it and give them a fair opportunity. One of the unexpected byproducts of the lockdown has been the business community's quick and relatively seamless transition to digitization using technology to solve traditional problems. This is a first step, but it does show just how quickly we can pivot again, because we all know Detroit pivoted pretty darn well in World War II. And again, during the auto industry slump, when some of the people in automotive moved into the defense sector, defense people taught automotive companies that were in a downward spiral how to work with them so that they could keep their companies alive, and again, keep a supply chain in Michigan. Having an opportunity to work with all of you in any way is thrilling to me, because first of all, Michelle and I talked a couple months ago, pre-COVID, about the fact that we need to have a true partnership. And I think we need to facilitate supply chain collaboration. I think organizations that mobilize the industry and innovative stakeholders to identify future solutions and roadmaps, how we're going to move forward, are part of how we need to do things. We have got to come together. So relationships like that between Automation Alley and the Michigan Minority Supplier Diversity Council need to become true, active partnerships. We need to do things together. When I say an active partnership, I really want to put emphasis on act. We have to act together. We need to talk about small steps we can take where a supplier comes through the acronyms are so hard for me. A supplier comes through MMSDC and says they need some help with something. And we at Automation Alley can pair them with somebody who can actually make a difference that day, can connect them with somebody who has the right product, the right innovation, the right overlay, a way to make it move forward. So what can we do better together than we can do apart? One of the things I've learned with the World Economic Forum is all the problems that they tackle are problems that are too big. Problems that are too big. They're too big for a mammoth consulting firm. They're too big for a mammoth manufacturer. They're too big for a huge tech company. They're too big. And when a problem is too big, there's only one way to solve it. And that's to bring together a layer of manufacturing, consultants, academics, industry, technology and keep stacking it up until you've got the right people in the room where it's going to happen. And I want to be in the room where it happens with you. I think it's an important thing that we really take our first step and we say, what can we do better together than either one of us can do alone? Because I know we can. So I'm looking forward to what Michigan does best, making things. And I want to start by making a better future with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. I really appreciate your participation. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to add that to the Q&A section. What we're going to do is ask those for a couple of minutes. In the meantime, maybe one of the questions that we can answer here would be, if you are a small business, what would you feel is the best way for a company who wants to survive COVID? What should they start looking at first to start implementing technology into their processes?
I think there are a number of apps that are really a great start, that are inexpensive and an affordable way to, you said to provide it or to come back post-COVID for work?
Either way.
Okay, so if you're coming back post-COVID and you're coming back to work, there are so many apps now, and many of them are member companies are developing apps. We've got some things that people make that are $500 a year, and you can have tracking of all of your employees, up to 500 employees. That's a really great way to keep track of who's coming and going and put some accountability on the employer. It also, it takes away some of the fear. There are people who are afraid to come back to work. We have some of them, I'm sure in our organization, you may have them in yours. So we need to start by alleviating the fear and giving people comfort that you're taking action. So an app for all employees they log in every morning and has an update from the governor. There was a change in the governor yesterday, for example, and if a new policy came out yesterday, the app is going to drive that to you. So helping people know that they're safe when they return to work is critical. The other thing is, if people are still looking at trying to get involved in helping supply PPE, I think it's become a very competitive industry now. You know, when there was a crisis, we needed everybody was chasing that PPE to try to solve a problem to help people. But I don't know that we need to do that anymore. I think we now need to look at our own business and say, what's the first step for technology? And your first step might be, depending on your interest, it might be to digitize a process that you do today. One of the things we've seen, many people have paper manuals, paper HR manuals. So COVID mitigation, you know, you can't have everybody come in and read their manual. So moving the manual into a digitized form so everybody can log in the morning and say, yep, I'm healthy, I checked my temperature on this, and they can own that is helpful. But in terms of your factory coming up, and we're looking at trying a robot for one task you didn't think a robot could do. You know, and again, things are so much less expensive than they used to be. You can get robots for $5,000 and $10,000 now. So a $5,000 investment in a robot that helps make people safe because it's moving the things that are too close together. So we've seen that. We've seen training, the online training that I'm seeing, and some of the digitized training where the training is actually physically overlaid onto a machine. So the machine just now has a reflection of all the training instructions step by step. Those kinds of things enable, in order to hit 6-foot distancing, for example, it used to be if you had two stations 3 feet apart, you now have one person doing twice as much work, but they're doing it with digitized support of instructions, work instructions overlaid directly on their station. That's helpful.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that information. We truly appreciate it. Everybody, we're going to conclude our session at this time. I want to thank you very much for attending us, and thank you for attending this portion. What we're going to ask at this time is that you please go to the Innovation Summit homepage and click on the next session called No to Low Cost Innovation Technology Processes for Business, which will begin at 10:45. In the meantime, we look forward to seeing you in the next room. Thank you. Thank you again so much, Cynthia. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Janice.